Germany, Poland, Russia, Turkey, Odessa, Port Said, Egypt, Korea, Japan, Belgium, and France. Those were the countries I were in. Well, I can tell you what my accommodations were. I got the 3 Bronze Star, the Middle East Medal, National Defense Medal, Good Conduct, Prisoner of War Medal. Koreans sent me a medal, and it's all in Korea, and like you can't read it, but I got the letter. And then I got the 101st Unit Combat Medal, and I got the French Brodeguet, and I got the Orange Logray. That's another unit citation. And then the French sent me what they call the Liberty Medal. All the ones that jumped in France on D-Day, they give a medal. So those are my accommodations. I was raised out in Lynn Township, right outside of Hutchinson, Minnesota, yeah. Our mother died young. I think I was around 14 years old. My brother was 6 years younger, and we were farmed out. He went to one place, and I went to another. I was 18, and I had roaming feet. So I went out, I jumped on a bus and I went to California. I worked out there for maybe 6 months, and I came back to Minnesota. I was working for a farmer out there as a herdsman, and the war broke out. And I heard of the draft was coming up. And I went up to the service officer and I said, I'm enlisting in the service. When we got to Fort Snelling, they asked me, he says, what branch of service you in? I said, the Navy. He says, Army. Okay. That's the way it happened. And they sent me up to Camp Roberts, California, where I put in my 13 weeks of basic training. And then we heard that all the group here is going to the South Pacific. And I said, no, that's too hot and smelly. So there was a sergeant, our commandant sergeant, and he said, I'm going to Fort Benning, Georgia to the paratroopers. Anybody wants to go along with me, join up. So I did. Went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and went through 1 month of basic training for paratroopers. And I made my basic 5 jumps, and I got my wings. And we shipped out on an English freighter boat, and we landed in Liverpool, England. And from in there, they sent me out. The 101st Airborne was sent out to a manor house, and we spent there all that time training for the jump. We had to jump every 3 months in order to collect our $50 pay extra, because you only got $24 a month at that time, and that $50 was big money. We were equipped actually with over 100 pounds of weight on our body. We carried ammunition and food and rifles and stuff. There was about 18 men in a ship. We got into the plane, lined up, and they all checked us all out, and we sat down and we took off on a C-47. And it was 2 o'clock in the morning. We jumped in France. Our pilots were young. When we got the first flak, they got nervous and they hit the green button, which meant we go out. Maybe lucky that it was, I landed in the Cherbourg Peninsula, which is part of France, up north. And it took me 4 days going back to trying to get back to my unit. And we were up on the line for 14 days. And then they shipped us back to England, prepare for another jump behind the lines. On the 17th of September, about noon, we were going into Holland. The Air Force was supposed to have cleared the path for us, but there was an anti-aircraft outfit, German, that moved into a cornfield, and when we came across, we were like clay pigeons because the C-47 didn't travel over 150 miles an hour loaded. And we were like clay pigeons. That was the name of our plane, clay pigeon. And we took three shots through the belly. Lucky, we were carrying Bangalore torpedoes and never hit them torpedoes. And the minute we got the first blast, we went out the door. And something happened, hit me in the head, and I think my Thompson broke loose and hit me, and I woke up on the ground. And I was looking up. The German SS was looking down my throat. And he wanted to know where my gun was and where my ammunition was. Well, I don't know where it was, you know. And then they took us into an apple orchard, which we interrogated, and then that SS sergeant was about ready to execute us. And his commander said, "Nah, nah, nah." That was, no, they're prisoners of war. And they shipped us up towards Poland. We went through Berlin, and they stoned us there, threw stuff at us when we were in a boxcar. And then I wound up in Camp 3C. It's right outside of Custine, Germany. They didn't have nothing. We didn't have food, and it was cold. And we had a little old pot-belly stove in the barracks. There was 13 barracks, and there was 100 men to a barracks. It was double-decked, and we had straw for bedding. And with a little old pot-belly stove, and we used to try to tear up wood however we could get it to keep warm. This is what we had for Christmas. And this is what was in the American Red Cross parcel. There's bone jersey, 12 ounces, butter, 3 1/4 ounce, cherries, 8 1/4 ounce, prune juice, 1 pound, deviled ham, 3 ounces, vanilla sausage, 4 ounces, dates, 14 ounces, honey, 8 ounces, boneless cubes, 1 ounce, 2 fruit bars, 2 ounces, mixed candy, 12 ounces, mixed nuts, 7 ounces, and 1 pie, and a packet of tobacco, 3 pouches of cigarettes, 4 packs of gum, 1 game, tea 1 ounce, washcloth, and a deck of cards. And this is what the Germans give me for Christmas. Potato man, 6 ounces. Loaf of bread, 1/6 of a loaf. Butter, 1 ounce. Hot water from 10 a.m. to 4 a.m. That was our Christmas dinner of 1944 in the prison camp. One night, well, I'd say morning, the lights all came on in the campground and the horns went off. We knew something was wrong, and he ordered everybody to fall out. We got about 5 miles out of camp and all hell broke loose. There was a tank commander. She came in with 9 tanks, and when she opened up on the column, the Germans, they were gone, period. And they took us back to camp. She stayed with us for three days. And then she says, "Gentlemen, we're going to Berlin, and you can come along with us and follow us. We're going to Berlin." And then 3 of us said, "No, we're not going." We just took off on our own. And we went into Poland, and wherever we run into a slaughterhouse where they were culling beef, the Russians were killing beef. And that's where I got my first good meal. And we finally wound up at Odessa, Russia, at the seaport. And there's where we got onto an English freighter. And that English freighter took us to Turkey, Istanbul, Turkey. And from Istanbul, Turkey, we got on another freighter which took us down to Naples, Italy. And that, under Naples, Italy, we got into American control again. And we landed in the United States just as we went past the Statue of Liberty. They came across that President Roosevelt has died. So that was kind of a blow homecoming. They sent us back to Fort Benning, and then I got out. And then when I got out, I made the mistake. I signed the paper. I'll never sign another one. And that was for the reserve. And as you know, 1950, Korea broke out. And you are on the way to Korea, which was kind of I had 2 children, 1 on the way. Then we got on another C-47, and they flew us up into Alaska. In Alaska, we had lunch, and then they refueled, and then they went to the Libyan islands, and then I landed in Japan, in Tokyo. And I was in Tokyo for about 2 weeks, and then got my orders, and I was assigned to the 11th Airborne, and the unit I was in was a 187 combat team. And then they sent us across in LSTs over to Korea, and we landed in Incheon. My wife was working with the Senator O'Hara from Minnesota. One day I got a letter from stating that I was supposed to be released and go home because I was getting what they call a hardship discharge. So I took it to my commander, and he looked at me, he says, you know, you're going to be another goddamn gravel agitator, ain't you? Why? I said, I'm going home. That's what I mean. He says, you're leaving the 11th Airborne and you're going home. You're leaving us alone up here. I said, well, how do I get back to Japan? I don't care how the hell you get back there. If you can walk on water, walk on water. So I was old enough and smart enough. I had enough Army spirit. I went down, grabbed the Jeep, and went down to the airport, and there was a plane rounding up, ready to take off. And the captain says, if you can get back here in 10 minutes, we'll take you. I got back there, I just dropped everything and went back and got on the plane and went back to 8th Army in Japan. And from there they flew me home. You know, nowadays the young people don't even know what the hell D-Day is about. They don't know what's happened over in Korea. It's, you know, to them, war is war. Now it's just, we got, I don't know. They just don't teach it in school no more. I've got a whole family of veterans. Bob was in the Navy. Jim was in the Air Force. He retired in the Air Force. Mike retired in the Air Force. And Pat retired in the Air Force. And I got a grandson that put in 22 years in the Air Force as a weatherman. He spent time over in Afghanistan. And I got a granddaughter that was in 101st Airborne. She was with the K-9 unit. And I got another granddaughter that was in the 82nd Airborne. And she was with the National Guard, and she was with the 82nd Airborne. She was in Iraq. She's in the Guard waiting for deployment. Proud, very proud.